Today I'm showing how I modified my Sennheiser G4 EW500 wireless transmitters and receivers to replace the built-in antennas with SMA removable antenna mounts. So strap in, hold on, and let's have a look-see. I have a total of 3 sets of wireless transmitters and receivers that I am converting. We'll be disassembling the sets, so we need to remove any batteries, and we'll remove the battery covers. They're pretty easy to remove. Just push out the plastic hinge pin on the battery cover with something just slightly smaller in diameter than the pin itself, and set the covers aside until we're done the conversion. The SMA replacement antenna mount come already packaged in a format designed to fit snugly inside the receiver and transmitter kits, and already has a lead tin for soldering into the control board of the device. I also purchased 6 of the removable antennae that are already cut to length to match the frequency range of the transmitter and receivers. I bought the antenna mounts and whips from IT Gootch Productions, and I'll put the links in the description. At this point, I'm showing the conversion of the 3rd set of transmitter and receivers. And by this point in time, I worked out all the kinks and unnecessary steps to show you how quick and easy the conversion is to do. It's best to have a good soldering iron kit with new solder, flux, solder wick, etc. on hand, but if done carefully, you will only need the soldering iron itself. Start by removing 4 screws from the back of the receiver. You should be able to remove the screws without having to remove the spring clip off the back. There's a piece of fairly strong and sticky tape just above the battery compartment that tends to hold the 2 halves of the casing together. Carefully separate the 2 halves of the casing and peel back the tape, keeping it intact. For the receiver, we only need to remove 1 screw inside the unit near the antenna to separate the control board from the front half of the casing. Previously, I was removing 3 screws from the control board and disconnecting a ribbon connector to separate the 2 halves of the control boards from each other, but this is not necessary for the receivers, as you will see momentarily, and it actually made removal of the old antenna easier to keep it all in one piece. Set the front half of the casing aside. Next, position the control board so that the back side is facing upwards, and while grabbing a hold of the factory antenna, touch your soldering iron to the connection for the antenna, and it should come out quite easy once the solder is molten. Then it's as easy as positioning the new SMA mount assembly with a tin lead near the connection point, heat the solder back up again, slip it into place, and keep a hold of it until the solder solidifies. That's it, and then you're ready to reassemble the receiver assembly. Take care when putting the control board back into the casing to ensure all the buttons are in place, and line up the adhesive tape properly when putting the 2 halves of the casing back together, and then reinstall the screw near the antenna mount that fastens the control board to the front half of the casing. Then reinstall the back half of the casing and tighten up on the 4 screws. It's a very similar procedure for the transmitter assembly. Again, we take out the 4 screws holding the 2 halves of the casing together and separate them, taking care again not to damage the tape in between the 2 halves. This time, we will be removing 3 screws on the control board, carefully disconnecting the ribbon cable by releasing the lock mechanism, and separating the rear control board that has the antenna soldered to it from the assembly. I found it easier to take the control board and tape it in place on top of anything suitable to get the unit fixed in place, and with some room above the workbench to be able to access the antenna for desoldering. Again, just a quick touch with the soldering iron to the connector while pulling gently down on the factory antenna and it will come right out. Position the new connector tinned lead into the same connector hole and remelt the solder and slip it into place. If you do this carefully enough, you won't even need any flux or new solder. Reassemble the control board back into the unit, reconnect the ribbon cable, and reinstall the 3 screws that hold the control board in place. Again, take care to position the tape out of the way and put the 2 halves of the casing back together, ensuring the new antenna mount fits into position correctly. Repress the tape back into contact with both halves of the casing. And reinstall the rear casing with 4 screws. And that's it, you're done. Other than attaching the new SMA whip antennas and replacing the battery cover and hinge pin, that's all there is to it. The reason I wanted to do this conversion is so that I can make use of external Betso bow tie antenna that feed into a Deity SRD Mini RF distribution system. The Deity SRD Mini allows me to have a true diversity antenna system, and although the Sennheiser G4s are not true diversity receivers in the sense that they have 2 separate antennas, my setup is future-proof for true diversity receivers when I can afford to go with more professional receivers. But in the meantime, I do get quite a performance boost using the improved antennas tied into the Deity and Betso antenna over the factory antenna. I tested range and dropouts before and after the conversion and noticed a significant improvement in performance. As well, having the antenna be removable makes them a little bit more robust to wear and tear, and now if an antenna gets banged up, it just gets replaced with the new SMA whip. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, get out there, but don't make noise. Make good sound recordings.